broken if pain didn't mold me right. Maybe faith was the fire that lit when I lost the light. Maybe fear was the teacher that whispered before I fell. Maybe walking alone prepared me for walking through hell. Maybe doubt was the storm I needed to cleanse my pride. Maybe my tears were the truth I couldn't keep inside. Maybe silence was louder than the words I was trying to hide. Maybe failure was mercy in a different disguise.
Every scar you carry is proof you tried, proof you fought and didn't give up.
Maybe scars wrote scriptures where my ego had died. Maybe purpose was born on the day that my struggle arrived. Maybe healing ain't comfort, it's just chaos redesigned. Maybe closing some doors was really opening up my mind. Maybe pressure made diamonds right up under fragile skin. Maybe nightmares were lessons I was scared to begin. Maybe faith ain't luck, it's just discipline within. Maybe loss was the only way for my soul to win. Maybe I wouldn't have risen if I stayed with fear. Maybe pain was the prophet that made my vision so clear. Maybe love ain't pure unless it calls sincere. Maybe comfort's a cage and freedom's the engineer. Maybe death in the spirit gave my soul rebirth, and I had to lose worth just to redefine my worth. Maybe cancer was a mirror reflecting my higher worth. Maybe I healed cause I believed before I saw the dirt.
Storms don't drown the soul anchored in faith. Trust His plan even in chaos.
Maybe solitude sang when the noise turned to rage. Maybe God closed curtains just so I could write that page. Maybe distance from people brought me right to center stage. Maybe fear had to break me so I could be brave. Maybe hate was my fuel when the peace was slow to start. Maybe brokenness is art right before it heals the heart. Maybe destiny don't knock, it just tears you apart. Maybe every scar's proof you were built for the dark.
Maybe if I didn't take that risk, I'd still be wondering what if instead of living with conviction. Maybe if I didn't walk away, I'd still be stuck in a chapter that wasn't meant for me. Maybe if I didn't fall, I'd never learn the strength it takes to rise again. Maybe if I didn't lose, I wouldn't truly appreciate what it means to win. Maybe every maybe in my story was meant to teach me, to shape me, and to lead me here. And maybe, just maybe, the next thing I dare to do could change everything. So don't let maybe keep you paralyzed. Move forward and make your maybe mean something real.
This is a story about overcoming the obstacles life throws at you. Breaking, but never broken. He stands upon the hill beneath the fading light. Conviction in his chest, prepared to brave the night. When people lose the truth, he pays the heavy toll. Prefers to walk alone rather than barter off his soul. Heartbreak tried to break him, left him shattered on the floor. But every failure is a lesson, now he's stronger than before. Belief in God's plan through the storms that tried to fail. A masterpiece from broken brushes, losses tell the tale. Family in his corner, he's the sword and he's the shield. Guarding every dream they hold, protecting what's revealed. He shuns the other lanes, paving roads that are his own. In a world full of fakes, he marches to his tone. Pressure makes a diamond, solitude crowns the king. Building with intention every lyric that he sings. When silence fills the world and the doubters start to hate, he stands up even taller and continues to create. He's a visionary, the leader of his pack. And if he is your friend, best believe he's got your back. When the world turned cold and the struggle got real, he began to look around and saw nobody at the wheel. He was on his own, confused and alone, but he picked his crown up and got back on his throne. A turning point in life, and now he knows that he's enough. The definition of a triumph. He rose from broken pieces, mended hope with every rhyme, turned his pain into a beacon, glowing through the grime. They said he wouldn't make it, but he sculpts fate by hand. Trusts in the blueprint, every setback had a plan. Heart left in wreckage, he learned how to let it heal.
Welcome to Unscripted, where the story behind the journey matters most, where we don't just talk about the future, we humanize it. I'm your host, Leslie Mota, and this show is sponsored by WACME. Tonight is about what it really takes to keep going when life doesn't give you clean chapters, when the path is messy, tested, and deeply personal. It's about identity, culture, faith, and the kind of resilience that isn't taught, it's lived. The kind that comes from carrying responsibility early, navigating life's weight, and still choosing to create, still choosing to show up, still choosing to speak truth in a world that often rewards filters over honesty. Because some journeys change you in ways words can't fully hold, moments where everything slows down, where you're forced to face your own mortality, your faith, your purpose. And coming out on the other side isn't just about survival, it's about perspective. It's about what you carry forward, how you love, how you lead, and how you choose to live after you've been tested in many ways most people will never understand. This is someone who's seen both sides, the structure of the industry and the freedom of walking away from it. Someone who understands what it means to lose control and then reclaim it on their own terms. A creator who doesn't just make music, but uses it as a vessel for healing, reflection, and connection. A father, a survivor, a man whose journey through cancer didn't break him, it deepened him, sharpened his purpose, and anchored him even more in faith. And tonight we go beyond the surface into the moments that shaped him, the battles that refined him, and the purpose that continues to drive him forward. So tonight we go unscripted with Unconfined. Welcome, welcome. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. What an intro that was. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
You are so welcome. I am excited to have you on today because your journey isn't easy. And I think what stands out the most is not just the music, because I've been listening to it. It's the message, behind that, the message that you put in your music, the message that you put out there, the moments that could have taken you out, because it's taken a lot of people what you've gone through out, and it's very hard to get back on their feet. But instead, you became the reason you go even harder, even deeper, and even more intentional with everything that you create. I mean, you faced something like that. When you face something like that and you have to sit down in your own mortality, your faith and your purpose, you don't come out the same. You come out even with more clarity and conviction. So take me back to that moment in your life when everything slowed down for you, when you were forced to face your diagnosis, and what did you feel like? What was that moment like for you?
Um, it's crazy because I was sitting right here. I was sitting exactly where I'm sitting. It was 4th of July, and I had already known that, something was wrong. Obviously, I had some test results that weren't good, and then I went and had a biopsy, and and I got the results of the biopsy, but I really didn't know, what it meant. I couldn't
Mhm.
read it. And I got a call. It was 4th of July. I got a call. I didn't have my kids. My kids were with their mom. It was their weekend. I was by myself in this house, quiet. And I got a call, and I answered the phone, and the doctor was like, I wanted to talk to you about your results. I said, okay. And he was like, I regret to, inform you that it is cancer. And man, uh I I I never thought I would hear those words, you know what I mean? Um it's something that I think everyone is scared to hear,
Mhm.
hearing that you have cancer. It's a very scary, scary thing to hear. And there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of obviously fear, but and you feel that when you hear that from others, because everybody knows somebody who has cancer, has had cancer, has died from cancer, has beat cancer. You know what I mean? Like we all have heard that from either people we know directly or people that we know through others. Um, and so you feel a certain way about it, right? You're empathetic, but it's a completely different thing to hear it as it relates to you. And I just remember being very, very scared, very scared. Damn, I did not think it would. It's been, it's. it's been almost a year, and I have to say that like my journey, I'm blessed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I found out I had cancer on the 4th of July, and I was cancer free 19 days later. Not many get to say that. You know what I mean? My cancer journey was 19 days. Now they told me that I probably had the cancer for up to 5 years and didn't even know it. I was just walking around with cancer and living the best years of my life in terms of health, fitness, my where I was in life, my mind, my mental health. Never felt better, and I had a deadly disease inside of me and didn't even know it. So that's scary. But for me, it was 19 days, and thank God, by the grace of God, it did not spread. It was the lowest grade cancer it could be. Like they had to give it a stage just because there's no such thing as like a stage 0. So they
Yeah.
gave it a stage 1, but it wasn't even stage 1. It was contained in this one small spot on my prostate. And I had an amazing surgeon who used a Da Vinci robot machine to get it all out, and I woke up cancer free 19 days after I was told I had cancer. So
Do you ever
it's a,
look back and think, it's like, that you're on a certain path, right? And your faith and what you believe in. And sometimes we get derailed of what our purpose is, or we don't understand our purpose. Do you ever look back and be like, that was a little bit of a wake up call for me to continue on whatever path or purpose?
yeah, I mean, yes, and for me, once I got past the initial shock of it, I look to God. God is my anchor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I look to him like why obviously why is this happening to me? What does this mean? All that stuff. But I was like, okay, I could sit here, and obviously I had my moment. I had my moment, and some of those moments throughout that 19 days where I broke down by myself. But when I looked at it overall, I was like, okay, I could sit here and just be sorry, feel sorry for myself and be sad,
Yeah.
or I can find some type of purpose in this, right? Maybe I was had found out about this and went through this because I have a platform, and I act like I like to be very open about things that I'm going through. So maybe the reason for me to get this disease and be able to go through it is because God knows I'm going to use my platform to spread this message as far as I can about men. Go get your PSA test. Don't be scared about it. It's not, let that stigma go. Get tested, and who
Mhm.
knows how many lives I might save that I know about and that I don't even know about. Because I know from that day when I started posting about this, people were DMing me pictures of men were DMing me pictures of them at the doctor's office, sending me screenshots of their test results. Like the amount of people, men that went and got tested and got their PSA test as a result of this, who knows? You know what I mean? I don't know, and I don't even know about the people that didn't DM me. But there was definitely a message in that, and it was up to me to use my platform to spread that awareness.
Unconfined. Okay, so walk me through how, you went through, were you feeling some type of pain? Where did you get to the point where you're like, you know what, I am going to go to the doctor. You started feeling some type of way, side effects, anything that got you to that point to go and get yourself checked. The things that men neglect or people neglect.
So this is crazy, and I love telling this story because um, it's so spectacular, and it shows how powerful and amazing God is if you believe in Him and accept Him in your life. I have always been the guy that like goes and gets my yearly physicals, and like I just stay on top of my health. So I always go every single year. And every year, I would tell them. I remember starting in my mid 20s, I'd be like, "Yeah, I want you to do the PSA test or the prostate exam, all that stuff." And again, I will say this is something that guys don't want to talk about, right? Now it's just a blood test, but before it wasn't a blood test, and I'll let you use your imagination to think of what it was. But to me, it didn't matter because my health is more important than anything. You know what I mean? And so I would always go to the doctor. Now, fast forward or rewind to about 5 years ago. You know, it was just a blood test. I would go, they would check my PSA results, and it was like a little bit higher than it normally was. It was like a little over 2, right? And usually it's like 1 or less for most males, and that's in the healthy range. And mine was like a little over 2. And so it was nothing of it. And I went the next year and it was like a little higher. Then the third year it was like over 3. And then the fourth year it was like getting close to 4. And I
Mhm.
went last year and it was over 4. It was like, or it was like right at 4. And I remember I got home and it was like a few days since I had gotten the exam, and they have an online portal, and I got my results. And I went to the online portal. I got the results, and it was just the test results, and it said that everything was in normal range. And I remember I went to my PSA first, and it said that it was in normal range, and it showed the range at the bottom is 0 to 4, and I think mine was like 3.98 was my PSA. And I remember looking, and I was like, cool, I'm in normal range. To me, I didn't even think this is high or why is it going up. I closed my laptop, and that was it. For 3 nights, I woke up in the middle of the night every night, and the first thing that popped in my head was my PSA and my results, and I had no idea why. To the point where the night that it happened, the last night, I was so frustrated from waking up in the middle of the night and knowing that I was going to be tired the next day, that I told myself, you have to remember to like, you have to remember this in the morning so that you could go and look and see, like, if there's something that you didn't see, like, go check again. So I remember waking
Mhm.
up that next day, coming downstairs, opening up my laptop, going to that same test results, and it said normal. And I was like, man, I'm really tripping. Like, something is wrong. And then I saw that the messages were not in chronological order. The messages were like, the test results were there, but then there was like older stuff and newer stuff. So there was a little button at the top where you can reorganize. I reorganized everything, and there was a message from my doctor right after the test results came that I missed. And it said, hey, while your results of your PSA are within normal range, it's concerning that your PSA has been rising the way it has over the past few years. And my suggestion to you is to go see a urologist outside of us, and just have them do a check to make sure you're okay. That is what prompted me to then go make an appointment with a urologist. If I hadn't had that feeling over those 3 nights, I wouldn't have checked on it. And uh, what I do know is, regardless of how, like they said, my cancer was low grade. Once they did the surgery and they got the pathology back, they said that it was very close to starting to creep outside of the containment of the prostate, which at that point it spreads, and I mean, it can kill you, you know?
And that,
So it was amazing. I couldn't believe it, but that's what caused me to then go see the urologist.
now, is there a very low survival once it spreads into prostate? Because I always hear, for men and the cause of death, cancer, prostate, that typically once it spreads beyond, that small point, that the survival rate is very small
Yeah.
or close to none.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the prostate is in a very it's in an area where there's a lot of vital organs there, and then there's your bones right there.
Mhm.
And once it spreads, that cancer can go anywhere, and usually it goes to areas that can cause a lot of problems. So it's the good thing about prostate cancer is it's very slow growing cancer. I had it for could be up to 5 years and didn't even know it was there. One of the options they gave me when I called once they told me that it was cancer, they like wanted to let the initial shock wear off. And then I had an appointment with my urologist, and they were like, you can do a couple things here. You can, and he actually recommended this: leave the cancer, because it's such a slow growing cancer, and I'm so young. They were like, you can leave it, and we will just monitor it, and we will monitor it up until the point where we see something concerning, that maybe potentially it could spread, or that it's getting bigger, or whatever it is, and then we can do something. Or you can do like isolated radiation and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then the ultimate and most extreme thing was like, you can remove your prostate. But again, for somebody who's 45, that's young to do something that drastic. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't want to live. I didn't want to leave cancer in me. I didn't want to walk around and wake up every day knowing that I had cancer. So for me, I have 2 kids already. I don't need to have any more kids. So
Yeah.
and I want to be here for my kids. So it was the right choice for me to just go with the complete removal and get it all out. And that's what I did.
During that experience, because it is such a huge, it could be very traumatic. What did you learn about yourself during that time that you may have never discovered otherwise?
Um, well, I learned that I could get through a surgery like that. The surgery itself was rough. The recovery was absolutely horrible. I had a catheter for 12 days, and
Oh,
it was not fun at all. And so that was difficult. I have kids, you know what I mean? So just
yeah,
knowing that they were gonna see that and not fully understand it, but it just showed me that it made my belief and my conviction in God even
mhm,
stronger, because through something that difficult, um, I was able to see how big God is and how powerful God is, and how even in these moments where you really have no idea what you're gonna do or what your life is gonna be like, you can always lean on God and trust um, that He's gonna take care of it. And I know that that's not the story for everyone. You know what I mean? I know that some people might look at my story and be like, well, you didn't have to go through chemo. You got it all removed, and like and you're still here. A lot of people don't get that type of experience, but that doesn't necessarily mean that God is not involved still. You know what I mean?
right.
And so I can't answer those things. I can only answer what I went through, but it definitely strengthened my belief in God. And it just proved to me even more that we don't fully uh, we don't fully accept things without going through difficulties, right? Like there's no success if you don't know what failure is. And there's no you can't acknowledge being healthy and be thankful for that unless you experience something like this and know that at any moment you could wake up and your whole life has changed. Like I went to sleep that night and woke up the next day and found out I had cancer, and that can change everything for you. But again, having faith is what got me through it.
I think that everybody's story is unique, and whether it's a short period amount of time or a long period of time, you can't undermine anyone's story because that is their experience, and you never know how God is using them and the purpose, and maybe your faith was stronger than most, etc. Because what does it say? It's like the Bible says, if you have the faith at least of the size of a mustard seed, and sometimes, we lack that faith. And you and I were talking, behind the scenes before we came on. It's like I just lost my mom to cancer about a month ago. And I moved here and I helped. And it was a 2-year journey of going through chemo. It went away into remission and then it came back. And, it was a very difficult time for us. And I was telling you during that time, you kind of begin to lose your faith just a tad bit. And there was one day right at that moment, you wrote one of your, you have a on Beehive, right? It's you have a you write and you post your stories on there. And during that time, for some reason, I received a notification and I needed that day, and it was about faith. And what would you tell people, it's like when they are at that moment or a place in their life where it's like, you have faith, you believe in God, and you've seen God get you through trials, tribulations, through your storms, but you're losing that faith and you don't want to lose it. And it's like, what do you say at that moment when you're hanging by a thread?
That's when you double down. And that's what makes it so difficult. Faith is easy if everything's good.
Yeah.
Saying I'm faithful, I believe in God is great when everything is great. Then yeah, of course, but it's the most important when you're in absolute chaos, when you have no idea what is next. That's when faith really matters. I was just telling somebody this the other day that you know, we could have a mountain in front of us and we're on the other
Mhm.
side of that mountain, right? And our
Right.
world is just in turmoil. And we have a mountain in front of us that we have to climb, and it's not going to be an easy climb. But we have the faith that on the other side of that mountain, there's something better. And I've had to do this multiple times, right? With the cancer, 4 years ago, I got divorced, and that was no, I don't want to say that was scarier than the cancer, because it wasn't. The cancer was definitely scarier, but that
Yeah.
was it was longer, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
the lead up to it and then trying to get through it. And that was all faith too. You know what I mean? Like having the faith to know that God has me, and like there's a reason for everything, especially
Mhm.
the hardships, right? You got to go through the fire to come out refined. Or you were playing maybe my song maybe, and I was listening to it before we started, and it was like, you know, even a diamond is made through pressure, you know what I mean? And I was
Mhm.
relating that to life, and that's the truth, right? You need to go through, sometimes we need to go through these moments of chaos, these moments of turmoil, pressure, where we don't know what's going on, because God wants us to always keep our eye and our mind and our heart on him. And sometimes he puts us through hardships so that we continue to lean on him. And I think a lot of people, when they get to a place where everything is good in their life, the first thing that kind of goes to the wayside by the wayside is God. And it shouldn't be like that. You know what I mean? We should always be thankful, whether it's bad or whether it's good. God is still always good and always powerful.
He is the foundation, and I learned that too because I went through a divorce a couple of years ago. He for many years, and I feel that recently I hit rock bottom. It's like I'm being buried alive. And one of the things that I understood is that when you feel like you're being buried alive, you're just being planted. And you don't understand there what the story is going to be. But when you begin to water it through faith, through God, you start seeing that come through. When I was talking to you and I was telling you about your music, your music feels honest, like pieces of your life and every word that you put out there. And when you sit down to create, where do you pull from? And the reason that I'm asking is I feel like every single song that I listen to you and then re-listening to them last night, preparing for the show, I was telling you maybe is right now, that's one of the ones that I have on repeat. The mirrors, that one hit a chord. And let me tell you, I think mirrors, if I would have listened to that one a couple of months ago, I would have probably fell to my knees and cried because there were some things in me that I was still working through. And that song is very reflective. And now I can listen to it without crying. But maybe that one, I I have it on repeat right now because it's a reminder of what if I maybe didn't, leave where I work? What if I was maybe not doing what I was doing?
Yeah, I've
But
said that. First of all, thank you. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, so going back to the question, where do you pull from all, of these words?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really glad. Those are two of my favorites for sure. I've always said this before. I say it to people that ask me about this same type of question. Um, I make music for myself. You know what I mean? Like, um, when I write a song, it's something that hits deep with me first, right? And I feel like that's the only way an artist should actually make art, if they're authentic and it's something they believe in, something they've gone through. Being in the music industry, like being when I was signed to Universal, I saw the other side of the music business, where they just want you to make music that is going to appeal to other people. That's actually what they want you to do. They want you to make music that other people are going to relate to, but that you don't necessarily relate to. And I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so the music that I make first talks directly to me, and a lot of it is just struggles that I'm going through that I'm trying to heal myself. I'm just, people talk to themselves. I talk to myself and I just record it and put it to a beat, and then I put it out for other people to hear. And so I think that the power in that, and why I hear messages like what you just told me, and from so many other people, is that we don't talk enough about our struggles. We
Mhm.
don't talk enough publicly about the difficulties that we face as human beings. And what we focus on is, especially with social media, is painting a picture of perfection that's not real. Go look at Instagram, right? Go scroll Instagram and look at, it's everyone's highlight reel. Most of it is just a glimpse in a perfect moment or a good moment, and a lot of it is actually fabricated. It wasn't even a perfect moment. It's touched up. It's made to look a certain way, and then you go to someone's feed and it's just a highlight reel of things that probably don't exist. I feel like I've gone through enough stuff in my life in 45 years that
Mhm.
other people need to hear about. And the power in that is they can relate to it, right? They can relate to going through a divorce. They can relate to being a single father. They can relate to questioning yourself and doubting yourself and having imposter syndrome. They can relate to getting cancer and having to, look at your own mortality and not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring. They can relate to all these different things, right? And so that there's power in that. And so I do that in everything that I do, in the music that I make, in the newsletters that I write, in the quotes that I put up. It all is something that I feel that I've been through and that I really feel that others need to hear.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think there are sometimes things that we go through that the world never really sees because we never really put it out there. Has there ever been something that you carried in silence that shaped who you really are today that you probably really haven't shared or put out there?
Um, no, I would say yes, maybe before I started going into spaces, but spaces on X, I've pretty much shared everything about my life in there. I mean, I'm an open book when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't share like private information, but like I won't dox myself. But probably the thing I've talked about the least is just like I was an illegal immigrant. You know what I mean? I was born in Iran in 1980 during the Iran-Iraq War, and my parents in '83 were like, yeah, we can't raise a child in a war zone. You know what I mean? And so they fled the country, part of the Iranian diaspora of that
Yeah.
time, and they came to America, and we were here with illegally, like we were here on a visa that expired and we just stayed, and I don't talk about it a lot because one, right, maybe not at this very moment, but the whole illegal immigration thing was like a big old topic and people want to judge you and place some type of judgment on you. But also, it's more my parents' story to tell. I was just a kid, you know what I mean? But I know they
Yeah.
sacrificed their whole life. They haven't gone back to Iran. I mean, let me just say, we are fully legal now. I'm a citizen of the United States. We all are. We just needed to get lawyers and make it all happen, and it took several years. But they have not gone back to Iran. Their parents, except for my grandmother on my dad's side, they all died in Iran, and my parents didn't get to go see them. Many of their family members and stuff. So that's probably something that I haven't gone into great detail about, but I was very open and transparent about the divorce and being a single father, and obviously cancer and the music industry and everything else.
That is part of your journey, and that's what makes you unique. And I think a lot of us that are Americans now, share similar stories because I am also, daughter of immigrants, illegal immigrants. And, it was a beautiful story journey, but that's a topic for another day. Now, I did listen to your song, Iran, and it's another song that the beats, the tones, it's such a colorful, beautiful song. I don't even know what the girl is singing, but let me tell you, when I was listening to that song, I closed my eyes and just her voice, and it's the combination of what you did to that song, that melody, it just almost feels like it takes you and transports you somewhere else. It's like a different land. It's almost like you can smell, taste, and feel the land that you're singing about. It's such a beautiful song.
Thank you. Yeah, so I make a lot of music and I release a song every 2 weeks. And I love all the songs that I make, but there are a few
Mhm.
instances that will happen. where everything just comes together perfectly, and you
Yeah.
know that what you're creating is something special and
Yeah.
something different. And Iran was one of those songs where it just the emotion and the feeling in that song and the message and all of that combined is something that I when I listen to it, I'm even like, wow, how did I do that? It went far and wide too. It got pushed by a lot of Iranian influencers. I still have a lot of family in Iran, and you know, it was a difficult time that my people are going through out there, and I just felt like it was an important moment for me to do my part in raising some awareness and showing people that all Iranians do not uh, mirror the views of a regime that really doesn't care about its own people. So it's a very important song for me to make, and yeah, I appreciate that you like it.
Have you ever listened to a song and they start singing in another language and you don't understand it and you're like, okay, you changed the song? Um, but
That
with
I
yeah,
Go ahead.
has that ever happened where it's like you're listening to a song and then you know, you don't even understand what they're saying, so you change the song because it's not in your tongue and
Oh,
you're like, okay,
totally.
yeah. With that one, when I started listening to it, and you started singing in the native language and then so was she, it's almost like this thing that it was such so rich in emotion that you felt the emotion, and it's like even though you didn't understand it, you still wanted to listen to it because there was something in you that it's like it touched a chord and an emotion. It's unexplainable, and I have no idea what the song says, you know, during those moments, but I couldn't stop listening to it. It was such a beautiful song.
It's funny because I speak fluent Farsi, so I know what it's saying, and yeah, and the parts that I rap in Farsi. But like my daughter and my son do not speak Farsi, and they don't understand it either. But they have memorized the hook. You know, they've memorized it, and they sing it, and they're literally speaking Farsi. They have no idea what they're saying, but they love it. You know what I mean? And I've
Yeah.
had other people that do not know, similar to like what you're saying. They have no idea what she's saying, but they're like, it is amazing. Regardless, whatever she's saying, it's something good because they love it. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, you've been through a journey, you know, and being an immigrant, you know, an illegal immigrant growing up, you know, was there anything in from your childhood that you carried onto adulthood and you learned? Because it's not easy. You know, it's like I was there, I know, I understand. And, you know, a lot of the times people think it is an easy thing because they see the product of what you are now, but they never see what you go through, you know, when you're growing up, when you look different, your color is different, you know, and is there any moments that you carry on and learn from when you were a child?
Yeah, I mean, um I never fit in fully when I was a
Mhm.
kid growing up. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
came up in a strict Persian home, and you know, I used to get bullied in middle school, and in high school I didn't get bullied, but like I didn't have a ton of friends. You know, I knew people, but I was kind of alone most of the time. And I'm not
yeah,
saying that for sympathy. I'm just saying like the thing that was, and my parents could see that. Um, and the thing that always instilled in me is to never let, you know, they would tell me people are going to judge you, people are going to say things, people are going to make fun. But never let that go past the surface. Like it's okay to have a bad day. It's
yeah,
okay to, you know, be upset about what people say about you or when they judge you, because of who you know, your name, your where you're from. You know, people always used to say, you know, you have a big nose. I have a Middle Eastern nose, you know what I mean? But like you know, my parents used to always say, like, don't let that stuff go too deep. And
yeah,
they instilled that in me, and I've carried that on through my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, and being more in the public eye and being you know, a public figure, an artist, you get criticized no matter how good you do. I could be the best motivational person, I can make motivational music, I can try to raise awareness on things and be as kind as possible, and there's still people that aren't, they don't like me, they block me, they send me bad messages, they, you know, you can never please everyone. And the important thing is to kind of have blinders on and just stay focused on the mission that you have and not let outside opinions affect that. And I try my best to do that. I'm still human and I still, mess up, but I try my best to stay focused on what I want to do and what my mission and what my message is.
So growing up, how did you always live in California or you moved over there? How did you even get into, or okay, let me go back. So you have always written music. When did you realize, you wanted to get into music, maybe wanted to be a rap artist? And then how did you go on to signing to UMG?
Yeah, so I think the first time it hit me that I had a talent in writing, was in sixth grade. We had to, the teacher gave us like this blank book. It was like a white covered hardback book, and it had a bunch of white pages inside. And she
Mhm.
was like, she wanted the class to like draw things in it. It was up to us. It was kind of like an open project, and we could create whatever we wanted. And we're in sixth grade, right? And my other classmates were drawing pictures or whatever they were doing, and I wrote a poem book. I wrote a book of original poems that I wrote myself on every page of this book, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and nobody else in the class did that, and we had to get up and present and like show what we did. And I got up and I like read some of my original poems, and I think it was at that time where I was like realizing that I had a talent in doing this and like a desire to do it. And then it was kind of just like, what was I gonna apply? Like, how was I gonna apply that? And I discovered Tupac, and just fell in love with his music and everything that he talked about and all that stuff. And I just wanted to be like him. I started listening to his music, and it was like he was the everything as it related to hip hop. And so I then just started, it was in high school when I started like trying to write rap lyrics, and they were probably terrible. I think I still have the old rhyme books somewhere in my parents' attic. But yeah, it kind of went from that to it was like early 2004, 2005 that I like made an album. And I started, this is before, it's crazy that I'm say it like this, like my parents used to say it in our day. This is before there was like social media and stuff like that. I would literally take my CDs, put them in envelopes. I went online and I was like, what are the addresses of the record labels in the area? And I would just put a CD in the envelope, put the address on there, stamp it, and I mailed off probably like 20 of these old manila folders with my CD in there. And nobody, I mean, I was mailing them to like the biggest record labels, and nobody reached out to me. And then this independent label in Stockton, California, Tracy, California, reached out to me. The CEO of the
Mhm.
label, his name was Randy. And he was like, hey, man, I got your music and I like it. And do you want to meet up and we could talk? And I was like, yeah, sure. I was 25 years old. I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so we met up, and he was like, yeah, I want to sign you to a deal. Now I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what a record deal means, what I'm going to sign, how to read
Yeah.
it and all that stuff. But luckily, again, good people attract good people. You know what I mean? And this guy could have taken full advantage of me. He was a great person. Still talk to him to this day. And he basically took me under his wing. He took me under his wing, and independently, me, him, and like three other people that were in the label, we started just touring. You know what I mean? I was on tour with Lil Flip. I was on, I was on a show with Ice Cube and Dub C, and like we just started, just by their hustle, we just started getting on all these shows. I was performing at like car shows and doing all this stuff, and we had an opportunity to link up with another independent label and get a distribution deal through Universal Music. And we did it. And it was like, I was like, that's it. I made it. I'm about to be famous. Like that, I'm signed to Universal. Like this is it. This is the beginning of it. And boy, did I not realize that it was about to be the worst creative point in my, artistic life. Was that one year that I was signed to Universal, and that album that I fought them tooth and nail that I finally ended up putting out. And thank God they've removed it. It's gone. It's no longer on the internet. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. It was
Walk us through
pretty
that
crazy.
experience, that year experience where you're like, okay, you thought it was going to be one way and then it turned out to be completely different, to now that your journey that you're releasing actually what inspires you, what you love, something that's so beautiful that we all relate to, or
Yeah,
most.
so I got signed to Universal, and they were like, "Cool, we want you to make an album." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." And I went in the studio and started making music that I wanted to make, which is very lyrical, message. You know, there's a message in it. I'm not
Mhm.
talking about stuff that I don't live. You know what I mean? I'm a Persian kid that had a pretty nice upbringing. I'm not, you know, uh, I didn't have a rough upbringing or a rough life, thank God. And so I was talking about different stuff. And I just remember like making a song, giving it to the CEO of my label, Randy. And then we'd go and like talk to these guys at Universal, and they'd be like, no. And they'd be like, we want you to make a song for the club. We want you to make a song about having money and women. And mind you, at that time, I had one girlfriend ever uh, in my life. You know what I mean? I told you my parents were strict. So I had no girlfriends in high school. And then when I graduated, I had my first girlfriend, and then we broke up 3 years later. So they wanted me to make this music about a life that I didn't live. I still lived at my parents' house and had a job at the mall, and they wanted me to rap about having money and driving cars. And I think I was driving a 1972 Toyota Celica, and it was like, what is this? And so like I would fight them on it, right? I'd be like, I don't want to do this, and they'd be like, okay, do it like this. And so anyway, like we just went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and finally, I think begrudgingly on their part, they accepted for the most part what we put together. And there was a ton of songs on there that were just trash. Like it was just, I hate them. And they were so upset at the process that they basically like shelved the album. Like we put it out, and they didn't promote it. They didn't do any marketing for it. So the album just flopped. Like it just was in stores everywhere, and nobody bought it because nobody knew about it. And this is before social media. So I had no way to promote it. I remember standing outside of Tower Records with a bunch of my CDs, and people would walk out, and I'd be like, hey, do you like hip hop? Do you want to listen to this? I'm an artist. And you know, that was how we would promote music back then. And they didn't book me any shows. Well, they did. They booked me they booked me shows at like nightclubs. And one thing about me, and this is why what you said is so important. When people listen to my music, I want them to listen to my music. I hate when people say, hey, let's play your song, and I play it and then they start talking. It bothers me so much. I'm like, if you want to listen to my music, be quiet for 3 minutes and
Yeah.
listen to the music. It's not background. I don't make background music. I make music you should listen to. So I remember the few shows that they did book me one night, and it was early on, so I was still excited, even though they had me make music that I didn't want to make. They booked a club appearance, and this was at a two-level club with like 2,000 people in it on like a Saturday night. It was crazy. And I went in, and I was supposed to perform, and they took me up to the top where I was performing on this kind of balcony. It wasn't even a stage, but they had it set up like a stage. And there was all these people dancing, and it was a club. It was a straight nightclub. And I start performing, and nobody even knew that I was performing. Like they were just dancing. They were at a club. They were drunk at a club, and I'm over there performing my guts out. And to them, it was just like they probably left and had no idea that there was an artist even performing there. And I remember just leaving that show and being like, this is terrible. This is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And there was a few more shows like that, and that's it. The deal ended. After a year, the deal ended. My contractual obligations with them were over. Unfortunately, through that process, there was a period of time where me and Randy and that independent label were not on good terms either, because I gave up. I was so just upset and like unmotivated that I gave up, and that put them in a weird spot. So we
Yeah.
stopped talking. I was done with Universal, and then the fun started. Then I linked up with another guy, and we started doing stuff independently, and I toured all over the country, and it was amazing. It was the best, some of the best time of my life.
And that's where your journey of creating the type of music that you create now started.
that's where it started, because all I had was a producer, this dude I used to work with, this Persian guy that I used to, I worked with. And then he was like, hey, I heard you're not with Universal anymore. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. He was like, well, I make beats. And I was like, okay, cool. He's like, you want to start a group together? I was like, sure. And he was like, cool. And I was like, well, what should we call it? And he was like, well, you talk about like political stuff and revolutionary stuff. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, let's call it Rise of the Revolution. I was like, that sounds dope. Let's do it. And he was like, all right, I have some beats. Do you want to hear them? And he played beats for me. And I was like, these are great. I love them. And he was like, cool. So, nobody told me what to write. I would give him I would be like, okay, cool. Like, I've written to this. We'd go to the studio. I'd record it. He'd be like, this is great. And then we linked up with another independent label called Ineffable Music Group. And man, these guys they were such like just cutthroat, and they got me in front of thousands of people. I was performing at these venues like the Catalyst Club in Santa Cruz in front of like 1,500 people with artists that I grew up idolizing, like the living legends, the Grouch. I have a song with the Grouch, which is like, it's crazy to me, right? I performed with Immortal Technique, who's still to this day, one of my favorite rappers, hands down. I performed with Tech 9, who is, again, one of my favorite rappers, still rapping today. So I got to experience what that life is like for a couple years before I had to make a decision of an actual career that was going to make me money, and a girlfriend that wanted me to, focus on her and not be gone and focused on other things, or music. And I picked the other life up until recently when I started making music again.
So what I want to do is, especially for some of the audience, I'm involved a lot in the crypto space and other audiences on other platforms. I do want to play them one of your videos, one of your songs, and I want to talk about it a little bit more, because I think a lot of what you sang and wrote in that song is very hitting to a lot of people. And I think I want to play it for a few, especially for the people that haven't seen it or are not aware of this video. So
Cool.
With that being said, wanted to play a Triumph for everyone.
Triumph. This is a story about overcoming the obstacles life throws at you. Breaking, but never broken. He stands upon the hill beneath the fading conviction and prepared to brave the night. When people lose the truth, he pays the heavy toll. Prefers to walk alone rather than barter off his soul. Heartbreak tried to break him, left him shattered on the floor. But every failure is a lesson, now he's stronger than before. Belief in God's plan through the storms that tried to fail. A masterpiece from broken brushes, losses tell the tale. Family in his corner, he's the sword and he's the shield. Guarding every dream they hold, protecting what's revealed. He shuns the other lanes, paving roads that are his own. In a world full of fakes, he marches to his tone. Pressure makes a diamond, solitude crowns the king. Building with intention every lyric that he sings. When silence fills the world and the doubters start to hate, he stands up even taller and continues to create. He's a visionary, the leader of his pack. And if he is your friend, best believe he's got your back. When the world turned cold and the struggle got real, he began to look around and saw nobody at the wheel. He was on his own, confused and alone, but he picked his crown up and got back on his throne. A turning point in life, and now he knows that he's enough. The definition of a triumph. He rose from broken pieces, mended hope with every rhyme, turned his pain into a beacon, glowing through the grime. They said he wouldn't make it, but he sculpts fate by hand. Trusts in the blueprint, every setback had a plan. Heart left in wreckage, he learned how to let it heal. Armored in his faith, never fake, always real. His kids are his fortress, so he covers them from storms, guiding and protecting them from life's many thorns. He never chases shadows, content within his lane. Comparison is poison, flushing out the pain. He stands for what he's living, even if alone. Integrity his compass, embedded in his bones. When the world loses color, he paints with truth anew. Every word he speaks a promise, the action is the proof. He rises past the chaos, purpose sparks the dark. Guided by a higher power, lighting every mark. He's a visionary, the leader of his pack. And if he is your friend, best believe he's got your back. When the world turned cold and the struggle got real, he began to look around and saw nobody at the wheel. He was on his own, confused and alone, but he picked his crown up and got back on his throne. A turning point in life, and now he knows that he's enough. The definition of a triumph.
If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving.
That song is powerful. I know some, men that have gone through a lot, single fathers, single parents. I think there's this stigma that if you're going through things as a male, you should not be speaking about it, and you're supposed to suppress it and internalize it. But that affects you as a human. Where were you when you wrote this? In what place or state of mind or emotional state of mind were you when you wrote this song?
It's crazy. I wrote that song before before I knew I had cancer. I had to call the guy who made the video to add the part in that. I was like, I can't release this video without adding the biggest triumph thus far has to be added in that. And that even to me is crazy, because I wrote a song about triumph before I knew that I was literally at the front door of finding out that I had cancer, and my biggest triumph to date. So it's a very interesting thing even for me to hear. But that song encompasses everything that is important to me. I mean, integrity, honesty, loyalty, family. My ex is in that, you know what I mean? And these are like you said, men specifically, right? We are told to be strong. We are told to be silent. We are told to not talk about our emotions, not show emotion. In terms of like crying or stuff like that. You know what I mean? We're told that we need to stay quiet about these things. Even our health, it's a stigma to go and get your prostate checked, or oh my God, there's a train going by. I'm sorry if that's loud.
Okay.
You said this was unscripted, and there's
It's
a train
unscripted.
going.
Everything goes.
Yeah. So that song, it encompasses all of those things, right? The ability to be able to go through these difficult things and still find the silver lining in being a single dad, in being divorced, in still having an amazing relationship with your ex, right? My ex is still, we co-parent, and we put the kids first, and she's my friend, and we see each other all the time. And you know what I mean? Like, the cancer, that's why I had to put that in there. All the things that I've been through with other people in my life, stuff that has tested loyalty and integrity and honesty and all the things I talk about. If there was one song that encompasses me and everything that I've been through thus far, it would be that song right there.
And that's the song that, on the intro, I included Maybe. And then that was the second song, because that song is even hit, even though you made it and everything that you were going through, I think it hits a core, even from a female perspective, because we all go through certain things in our life. And, and it's when you're going through those lows and that solitude, sometimes I am a big believer that God starts separating you. And that's where you start realizing, who's there for you, who's there to help elevate you into the next season of your life, because not everybody is meant to be elevated with you. And, not everybody is meant to carry those blessings with you. And sometimes, that separation begins and you don't understand it at the time that you're going. But then when you start seeing it and when you're on the other side, it's like he will triumph you. It's like he will prepare a seat at the table of your enemies. I don't even know what.
It's true. It's 100% true. My pastor just said something the other day, and I wrote it down. I was going to look it up, but I think I could just freestyle it. He said something about that, being alone is not necessarily a bad thing. And that sometimes when God has a greater plan for you, a greater purpose for you, he removes people from your life because you need to make that journey on your own.
Mhm.
And when you have a higher purpose from God, a lot of people won't understand that. And so there will be conflict. There will be misunderstandings, and these things will happen and people will fall off by design
Mhm.
to put you on a path to a higher purpose. I've said this to a few people, but it's something I've been feeling in myself for years now, that there is something, and I still haven't figured out what, but there is something that I have to do. And I don't know where that is. I don't know if it's in the music. I don't know if it's in the posts. I don't know if it's something I haven't even discovered yet, because I have not felt that I have, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I'm doing all these things and I haven't gotten that feeling in me yet that I'm on the path that I need to be. I know I'm working towards it, but I have this feeling that there's something there. And I feel I have a just as strong of a feeling and a conviction that whatever it is, I need to do it alone. That I can't entertain the idea of like dating or having another, getting back into a relationship. Not yet, not right now, and I don't know when, until I figure out what that purpose is.
I love that you said that because I think a lot of us go through that journey. After my divorce, I was going through a journey too of self-reflection, finding my self-love back and understanding, what God's purpose was for me. And I am very spiritual. I attend church once in a blue moon, but I do read the Bible and I do go, into that spiritual realm where I'm praying and I'm like, God, speak to me, talk to me. And I remember there was one point at the beginning of the year is like, you are going to go through a period of solitude and you trust in me, you believe in me, I will bring my people. And what started happening, it's like I have a very few amount of close friends, and God started placing people in my life to get me through a season and a journey of where I was to where I am now. And he's been placing those people in my life, those amazing, those beautiful people that have helped and carried me. But I understand what you're saying. It's like, if you want to understand your purpose, you will go through that period of solitude, that period of purging to probably help with what's going to be your purpose and where you are going to be headed. Because sometimes we're so confused and conflicted when you don't understand and you don't know.
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100%. And I think this is not just a me thing. This is not just a you thing. Everybody goes through this,
Mhm.
and God talks to us and tries to show us signs and guide us on a daily basis. But I think a lot of people don't see those. They're not aware of them, and so they let them
Mhm.
pass them by or they ignore them. And I think too many people, when they're faced with the reality of solitude, it scares them, and so
Mhm.
that's why people jump right back into a relationship when they get out of one,
Yeah.
or that's why they go find the first job that they can find after they lose their job. They don't take a moment, and some of that is out of necessity, I understand, but a lot of times if you just sit silent and listen to God, he will guide you and put you on the right path. But you gotta listen for it. And people are scared to be alone. I don't confuse the two. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and being alone is not a bad thing. Being alone, I've
No.
discovered in the past 4 years, I have discovered 4 years since I've been divorced, I've discovered so much about myself that I just didn't know was there. And I've tapped into so many things that I had not tapped into at all, or that I had just kind of set aside because I was busy being a husband and a full time dad that had kids there 24/7. And now there's moments where I don't have my kids for 5 days. And as much as that sucks, and I hate it, and it's the hardest part of being divorced, I use that time to self reflect and to figure out things about myself that I didn't know were there, and fix things, and all the things that a lot of people just kind of set aside, they brush under the mat.
And isn't it a beautiful thing too, like when you get to that point where you actually enjoy your own company and you're comfortable with being alone, but then you also understand the worth of peace, and then that peace becomes priceless. And I think that's one of the things that makes it difficult when you put yourself back out there, is like how that piece is going to be disrupted, or who comes into your life and you're like, you know what, I don't want to fight, it's, this, I'm just going to exit myself from certain situations because I protect my peace at all costs.
Man, I know how that. Yeah, you hit it right on the head. This solitude like this
Yeah.
is It's addictive. It is
Mhm.
addictive, and once you are, you reach that point where your life is peaceful and it's great, and you're just enjoy the time that you have with yourself. It's very hard to break that, and it's very hard, like you said, to let people in that might disrupt that.
Yes, let me tell you, I learned mine has been a shorter period than yours. Mine has been like a 2-year journey, but God recently this year, he placed somebody in my life, and this person brings me such peace and calmness, that it's unexplainable. And I'm like, if you don't have somebody like that in your life, I don't want anything else. And that's the same thing with my friends. All my friends that are in my circle that are helping me, propel and prosper and go into the next journey in my life, they're the same way. We all bring that peace, that calmness. And it's like, social media, it's stressful enough. You have the people out there that disagree with you, that don't like you, that are posting negative comments. You're always having to just not battle, but you understand what I'm saying. And then, having a circle that doesn't bring you that peace, or that doesn't understand, it's a very difficult. And it's
Yeah.
like, start weeding everybody out.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, I was already very picky with, like, who I let in.
Yeah.
And I think I've become even more picky, especially when there's stuff like when you're out there publicly and you're you're a public figure, and you're in the, more of the light, and especially with like the platform like X, and we're in spaces and we talk and all this stuff. But I still have like this inner circle around me that's very guarded, and very few people get in there. And so, yeah, I've enjoyed the solitude and the peace that I've experienced the past few years, for sure.
You're like, "I'm not going to let it break down." But what I did want to talk about is some of the images that you post on your timeline. Because when I was creating the video, the intro, and the commercial for the show, I included some clips, from the video Triumph, but I also included one of the images in regards to you being at Coachella. So just to clear it up to everybody that's watching, it is AI generated, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I know. I saw that and I was like, "Oh God, I should probably tell her in case she didn't know." Yeah, like uh I believe in you're gonna show it.
Yes.
I believe very much in the words that you speak, and the things that you say, and what you put out there, and manifesting the reality that you want. So I've said many times, in case if you've ever heard me speak, since I've started doing music again, I've openly said I don't perform. I used to perform. I do not perform. I have not performed since 2007, and I've said the only way I would perform again is if it was the Grammys or Coachella or something just like huge, that they were like, "Yeah, we want you to perform." And I do that because I mean it, but I also do that on purpose. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen the other side of it. I've seen the other side of the words that I say, um, coming to a reality and it not being what I want, because I'm negative, doing this negative self-talk, or this negative, uh, you know, theme to the stuff that I'm saying. So You know, I have a designer, a graphic designer that makes all the covers to my songs. His name's Bo, and he's on X. And he also is very good at doing stuff like this. So, you know, I think we were in a space, and I was like, "Yeah, I would perform at Coachella," and he sent me this, and I put it up there, and I think it did get community noted, which is it's fine. But yeah, this is not a real picture. If I performed at Coachella, because I think it was just last week, it would be all that you would see on my timeline for like 2 weeks before, the entire time I was there, and like 2 weeks after. There would be nothing else that I was talking about. So no, this is not real. But I hope that one day this is a reality.
What did we talk? The power of putting it out in the universe, manifesting it. And I mean, when I was looking through all of your images and videos, to clip for the intro, I mean, I saw it and I removed it and I was like, no, I'm not going to include it. And then I was like, you know what? Yellow, I am going to
Yeah.
include it, because it also looked good. And I'm glad that you brought it up. And I was like, yes, let's talk about it, to make sure that, people are not confused. They do understand. But I mean, it looked good in the video. And I was like, power of manifesting it and putting it out there to the universe that one day it will happen.
Absolutely. I mean, let it happen. Listen, some people might be like, "Nah, you shouldn't do this." That's fine. I mean, who knows? One day I might actually be on that stage and performing, and then then it'll be a real picture. But for now, it's an AI generated. What is true? Okay, what isn't AI is the fact that I'm an artist,
Mhm.
and I put out music every 2 weeks, and it's music that is very meaningful, and it's a reflection of my life, but it resonates with a lot of people, and that shows in the messages that I get on a daily, weekly basis from people saying how much what I say and the music that I make, they're able to relate to. I used to perform, and that was a very amazing time in my life, and I enjoyed it a lot. But I think that chapter is probably closed. I'm a dad, I'm 45 years old. I have two kids. Even if I had the opportunity to go on tour right now, I probably would not do it because I don't want to be away from my kids for that long. So unless they could come with me, I'm not going.
Being a father changes everything. How has it changed the way that you move through life now versus prior to?
Well, I'm not important anymore. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
important. Everything that I do is for them. They're the reason why I can look back on an 18-year marriage relationship, and that ended, unfortunately, and say I don't regret any of it. I would do it all over again. Now, maybe
Yeah.
if I had the opportunity, I would change a few things so that the end result wasn't a divorce. But still, even if I could only go back and do it again and we're still going to get a divorce, those two kids are everything. They make it all
Mhm.
worthwhile. You know what I mean? Like, how could I have any regrets when those two kids are my everything in life? You know what I mean? And so at this point now, everything I do is for them. Even the music I put out. Like,
Yeah.
if you've ever heard me in spaces, I don't shy away from saying a cuss word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to uh, express myself, and sometimes that comes out in saying a cuss word. But I don't cuss in my music. Why don't I cuss in my music? Because my kids are my number one fans. They're the first people that hear my songs after I make them. I wait, and I usually make them when I don't have them, and then the first day I get them back, I'm like, "Hey, Daddy made a new song. You guys want to hear it?" And I play it for them. I don't want them to hear their dad cussing on a song that they want to play over and over again. So everything I do, the is all it's all for them. It's all for them. And being a dad is literally the best thing that ever happened to me. It is truly my purpose in life is to be a father.
That's a beautiful thing. What kind of example do you hope you're setting for them, not just in what you say, but in how you live?
Well, I mean, the biggest traits that I value are integrity, honesty, loyalty, and I try to instill that in them at every chance. And like when they're, my son's 6, so he's still just, and he's a boy. He just, does boy things. But my daughter, she's 8. She's about to be 9, and she's coming up in a very different world than I came up in.
Mhm.
And social media is very impactful even at her age. Now she's not on social media, but her friends are that are her age. And some of the things I see and I hear coming out of these kids' mouths is scary. You know what I mean? There's 8-year-old, 9-year-old girls already talking about crushes and boys and stuff
Oh
like
my
that.
goodness gracious.
And it's wild. It's wild to me. And all I can do is make sure that I show them what I feel is right. And I teach them the things that I feel they need to, keep top of mind. Obviously, God number one, and then some of the other things that I listed. And I need to instill that in them right now while I still can, and while they're still, living with me, and they're still young. And then when they go out into the world on their own, those things still ring true in them. And when they have the opportunity to make decisions on their own, that is their guiding light. And so I do everything in my power every day to display that to them. I talk to them like adults. I don't talk about adult things, but like I don't water things down for them. If there's something going on, I tell them the truth as much as I understand that they will be able to take it. But like even through the divorce, you know what I mean? My daughter's older, and we were very open with her about what was happening and why mommy and daddy are not living together anymore. And um, I think these things are important.
You at one point you used to post your kids a lot. So when, we first met a few years back, you were very present, with posting your kids, putting them out there. And then all of a sudden, you decided not to. What changed and I mean, tell us about that.
Yeah, it makes me mad. I'm not gonna lie. Social media is a great place, and it's also
Mhm.
one of the worst places that you can be. And the fact that people can do and say whatever they want behind a keyboard, um, can be used for good and it can be used for bad. And like I told you, no matter how good you are, no matter how positive you are and how positive your message is and how much you try to be as best of a person as you can be, there's people out there that are just bad people, And I always loved putting my kids' pictures online and showing that side of what I am too, right? I show
Mhm.
all of me on social media, and being a single dad is a huge part of me. And it only took a couple times for a person to take an image and then put it out there and say something disgusting, that I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I don't post them anymore. Obviously there's already pictures of them on the internet now, like on X, and those are there. But I told them, I just drew a line in the sand and said I'm not going to post them anymore. So I don't.
Protect your children. This world is a disgusting, human, vile type of place with, a lot of
Mhm.
things that. Oh, sorry, I
That's all right.
apologize for that. Like D&D, I forgot to D&D my phone. But it's disgusting, and especially with all the predators that are out there. It's like you can never be safe. It's like those are part of your lives. It's part of what makes you that you want to share with the people that love you, your audience. And unfortunately, in the world that we in right now, you can't. I know that we are way over the hour, but do you still have time to do a rapid fire with me before we begin to wrap up?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
I think I already know what you're going to say to a lot of these, but I write them prior to talking with you to see, if they're going to relate to the end. But okay, let's go. Faith or fear?
Faith.
Pain or purpose?
There is no purpose without pain, but I would say purpose.
Silence or expression?
Oh, that is such a tough one too. Silence is so powerful. I say silence.
Control or surrender?
I should probably surrender more, but I'd like to be. I like control, so I'm gonna go with control.
Legacy or cess?
Legacy.
Fatherhood or career?
Ah, fatherhood.
Healing alone or healing out loud?
Healing out loud.
Old you or evolved?
Evolved me.
Studio session or live stage?
Studio session.
Now, what keeps you going on the days you don't feel strong?
God, 100%. I lean on God. I talk to God all day long. I'm constantly thanking Him. I think we don't do enough of that. I think, when things are bad, we go to God. If you believe in God, when things are bad, instantly you go to God. But when things are good, we're like, oh, we don't need to read our Bible. We don't need to go to church. We don't need to thank Him. I thank Him every day. I like go through a list of stuff that I thank Him for every single day, from the most mundane things that that I'm blessed to do, to the biggest things. I thank Him. So I would say God, 100%.
I freaking love that. And before we wrap up, I do all of the audience. I do want to bring them up. Well, we are exiting. There's a lot of people in here in the chat.
Oh wow.
Guys, say hello. And they enjoyed the live. We had Crypto Empress in here. We had PT, Based, Tammy, Mike, Cindy. A lot of your crew that I see in the spaces. Ani was here. Dylan,
I love it.
Diligent. I'm telling you, my accent's coming out. But he was like, "Free my boy, Unconfined." He is funny. Now, with that being said, we want to thank everybody that came through. And what you heard tonight wasn't just about the music. It wasn't just about the journey. It was about the human experience, the highs, the lows, the questions, the faith, the growth, all of it. And this kind of story, it reminds us that we're all carrying something and we're all finding our way through it at our own time. Unconfined, are there any parting words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with tonight?
I mean, if I had to say one thing, I would just say be true to yourself. Stop, don't care as hard as it is. Don't care about what other people say about you. People are going to judge you. People are going to have opinions of you. All that matters is that you're content with what you're doing, and that you're following your purpose. And the rest of that will fade away. The ones that matter will stay, and the ones that don't will fade away.
Amen. And if you are not following Unconfined, if you haven't found him yet, remember he is on X. So follow him on X. Also, I do want to show a couple of your websites. We do have Unconfined minds.beehive.com, and then we have unconfined.com, which you are seeing right here. And this is where you will be finding his music. I love the logo, by the way.
Oh,
So
thank you.
this is where you will find all of the information that you want to look up on him, his music, press coverages, modeling. For those that didn't know, he did some model. You did some modeling. No?
Yeah. Yeah. I should probably
Um,
update this a little bit.
and then the images. These are the images that you actually took, right? You did some
Yeah, yeah,
photography.
yeah.
See, it's like there's a little bit of everything, ladies and gentlemen. So go on over. Also, what has helped me a lot has been his newsletters. So you haven't or are not aware, all the links are on his X account, Unconfined, and go on there. I'm already subscribed. So if I log in, it's going to show you all my information while I'm logging in. I try to log in and it's asking me like for keywords and stuff like that, because I wanted to show them a little bit more. But come here and he is going to have a lot of articles, and I do go and read them, and because I am subscribed, I do get them to my email every day. So I take the time to go and read them, because I think every article that you're writing every day, you never know when that is going to be a word for you. And like I told you, one of the articles that you wrote about faith, that was exactly an article that I needed. It was right on time and it was for me. So people go and subscribe to all of his social medias. And remember on X, Unconfined, and then his websites. So I do want to thank you again for coming onto the show. I am very humble. I am very appreciative for you saying yes and having this awesome interview with me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me. Honestly, it's an honor for me to be asked to do this, and you're amazing. Like we were talking before the show started, I've known you for a while on here, and it was so nice to hear from you. And to be honest, I was surprised that you asked me. So I appreciate it very much.
Just as you were surprised that I asked you, I was surprised that you said yes when I reached out. I was like, wait, there's no way he said yes. But you know what? Like we were talking about it, right? You take a leap of faith. The answer will always be no if you don't ask. And sometimes you
Absolutely.
have to ask a few times. Don't give up on the first try. It typically takes three tries, right? Or
Agreed.
so.
Agreed. I very much believe in that. So I'm glad you asked, and of course I was going to say yes. So thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank you. And I hope to maybe have you back in the future, maybe when you're touring or doing something else, but I would love to have you back.
Of course. Yeah, let me know. It'll always be a yes.
Thank you, Unconfined. Again, appreciate you and keep being that light that you are for all of us. And remember, everyone, stay unscripted and go follow him. Thank you again. And I'll see you around. I'll see you in spaces.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.